Welcome back.
Today.
We'll put the song on in post. It's the Michael Sasson Show, broadcasting live from the River's Edge here at Millvale Studios in Millvale, Pennsylvania. Alex is back from her week-long. We were discussing this. You don't look very tan. I think you didn't even go anywhere.
I didn't, really.
That video you posted on was from like 2 or 3 years ago.
This is about as tan as I get as a person.
Normally, when someone comes back from a cruise, they
look like a different race.
Yeah, they look bronzed. They look like they've been away for a while.
Not me.
I really do think that you just made the whole thing up
so I could get out of a week of being on air.
Yeah, just get away from.
It's a good idea. I'll try that later.
Yeah, I'm going to Aruba, and then you're like, Mike, why are you at the Vocelli's in Aspinwall? This is the.
I took really convincing videos. If I lied about it,
that's actually the Monongahela River that you were doing. That's how beautiful it looks from a certain angle. But thank you very much for being again part of this. You can listen to us obviously always on TuneIn Radio, on www.riversedgepgh.com, or on Facebook Live. Always, if you haven't liked the Mike Sasson page yet, the Mike Sasson Show page, do that, because then all of the information, all of the wonderful things that we do throughout the week, we'll be giving you all that information. So we'll be going there. On today's show, we'll be discussing a couple big things in football, because I went to the Pitt-Penn State game, so I'll be talking about that. Alex will be going in depth about her vacation to the Bahamas, correct?
Bermuda, one
of the B's. I honestly, if you'd have said, are they the same place? I'd have said, yeah, one. I know they're like hundreds of miles apart, and the fact that I won the geography bee in 6th grade proves that.
Exactly.
Yes, but that I should know the difference, but I don't. But we'll be talking about that. Also, Alex will be starting a new segment called Random Thoughts at the Bar. And if you've ever discussed anything with Alex while she's drinking at the bar, you'll know that this could get weird.
It's going to.
Also, we're going to be talking about tipping because of
cows.
Cows. We'll be talking tipping cows. I've never tipped a cow. Have you ever tipped a cow?
Mm-mm.
Who was the first person ever to do that and think it was fun?
I don't know.
The silence that statement got the silence it deserved. But first off, we're going to be talking to the man, the myth, the legend, the person who runs this joint, the person that is the River's Edge. He's Mr. River's Edge. It's Mr. Brian Crawford. Hey, Brian.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing wonderful. Hey, the reason why we're having you on is something's going on in Millvale, our home, proud to be our home, that could affect the local music scene. Tell the listeners, tell the people all about it.
Sure. So there's some residents in the borough who are upset with a couple venues in the borough. 2 venues in particular have been targeted: Mr. Smalls and Grist House, the brewery on the other side of the main part of town. And basically, people are upset over parking situations and noise issues. They feel that they own their parking spot in front of their house, which legally is not the case. They are public spaces. And I guess these people have been going to council meetings for a while, voicing their concern, and they are the only voice being heard. So what I am asking is that you, the listeners of the Mike Sasson Show and the River's Edge Radio Network, join me tonight at 6 p.m. at the council meeting, which is right on Lincoln Avenue, just around the corner from the studio. You can see there's a big sign on it that says Millvale Borough. And join me at the meeting so that way we can show that there are people here who live in the area, who support local music and want these venues to stay. And I just want to make sure that they're prosperous and that Millvale can prosper with them.
Wait a minute. Are people trying to get rid of Mr. Smalls?
They are trying, yeah, they're basically looking through the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. For those of you, if you listen to my show at all, look back to my interview with Kevin Saffner. And basically there's a clause in your liquor license that says that the sound cannot travel beyond the property line. And I don't believe that Mr. Smalls has that issue, so I think that will ring on deaf ears. But Grist House, I don't know if they do or not. I haven't gone out and checked for noise. But the rule, basically, there's a secret part of the police force called the Liquor Control Enforcement Bureau, and they will go and listen for noise if they get contacted. And the only evidence that they need against the venue is they just have to hear the noise.
And so a person who is a representative of the government stands outside of Mr. Smalls, and if he believes that he hears too much music, he could sit there and say, okay, it's going past the property. But these venues, I know, in fact, Mr. Smalls, that it's well over a decade. I mean, like 20 some years that venue's been around, and now they're saying that now the residents are saying that it's getting too loud.
I've been told that a lot of these residents do not own their houses; they're renters, so it's possible that they've been moving in and out of the area. But they're upset about parking, I think, primarily at Smalls. But the law says that you do not own the parking spot in front of your house. That's common knowledge. People seem to think that they do. But yeah, I mean, it's all of a sudden, I don't know, it's something that's been around. I guess some of these people have been complaining, but it's becoming more boisterous at the council meetings, and they're the only side that's being heard because everybody's busy. People don't have time to go down to the council meeting for 2 hours to sit in every week. And if you don't know this stuff is going on, why would you go down to defend it? So I got wind of it. I was asked to try to bring some people down from a council member who appreciates the local music scene here in Pittsburgh, and I just think as Pittsburgh's voice for local music, we need to do everything that we can to protect the music scene, especially here in our hometown.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you very much, Brian. We'll also end the show with it and make sure people can get out there because obviously we believe totally we're trying to support Millvale, trying to, really support the local music scene and really local art. As a local artist myself, local stand-up comic, it's something that is near and dear to my heart. So definitely we're gonna definitely support that. So thank you very much. And again, listen to him tomorrow, same bat channel, same bat time, and hopefully you'll be saying that you shouted down a bunch of Millvalians who needed to be shouted down.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Mike.
No problem, brother. Again, that's the Godfather, Brian Crawford, the man, the myth, the legend. Again, here's my point. Now, Alex, you can, as normal, tell me if I'm full of crap. This is a huge example of what's going on throughout Western Pennsylvania. Is you got two factions of people. You got one faction of people that want to keep us as the Yinzer manufacturing capital of the world. We're the pierogies and the kielbasa. That's what Western Pennsylvania is. And then there's a group of people that sit there and say, if this city is going to grow and when we're not just going to manage attrition, which is what we've really been doing since the steel mills closed. We've been trying to hold off the stem tide and hoping and keep this and keep that and keep this instead of growing, instead of getting bigger, instead of getting better. And over the last 5 to 10 years, we've actually started to do that. And one of the major forces behind that has been the art scene. The cultural district downtown. The people nationally have been bringing that up about how that's helped the city of Pittsburgh. I mean, I perform there regularly at the Arcade Comedy Theater, one of the best comedy venues. Has been listed as one of the top 50 comedy venues in the country.
Wow.
So, so you talk about what type of things we have here. Obviously, everyone kind of talks about Lawrenceville, about how much that's changed. Again, I grew up in Aspinwall, right across the bridge from Lawrenceville, and Lawrenceville used to be a place that you didn't go to. It used to be a place that after 5 o'clock, there'd be no reason to go to. Now you got $50,000 houses that, now worth $500,000. And that's why. It's because of the art scene. It's because of the, if you start seeing quote unquote hipsters, if you see quote unquote, people that don't look like you moving into your neighborhood, hold on to your house because your house is about to be worth a hell of a lot more than it used to be.
Yeah.
Okay. People don't, art people do not drive down property values. They raise them. And to me, that's one of the most frustrating things about this town is because it's got such amazing potential, but it's being held back by people that sit there and want to, again, pretend that it's still 1960 and we should all be going to union dances and that we should all be in bed by 10 p.m. Go around, go to Butler Street, go to the South Side. It was amazing after, Terry Jones, my buddy, had his headlining set that I performed on at the Improv a couple weeks ago. It was a Sunday night, and we went Sunday night down to Carson Street and we had a party with their T-Robe, the great comedian, put it on for him. And I was astonished. Carson Street was packed on a Sunday night at 1 a.m. And I'm sitting there going, if you'd have told Mike 20 years ago that this is what Pittsburgh would look like, that on a Sunday night you could still go out, you'd have been, I'd have told you were crazy. If you'd have told me that there was going to be a casino in this town next to where the Steelers play, I'd have told you to be crazy. Oh, and by the way, how's crime doing? Have we all become, has this place become Las Vegas? Has this place turned into gangster shootout, Al Capone level 1933 Chicago? No. All right. So guess what? Your idea that because we put a casino there, we'd be basking in Sin City was complete bullshit. So
I completely agree with you.
I don't get it. I understand that. And this is what, and I'm not trying to be ageist, and it's there are older people in this town that agree with me, but most of the people are the blue hairs who sit there and want this town to still be a shot beer, kielbasa, all that kind of stuff. And that's the thing about Pittsburgh that makes it so special. That's the thing about it that people talk about when they come here from Brooklyn and Portland and all these other weird places that makes Pittsburgh unique and different than Brooklyn and Portland and Austin and all that kind of is our authenticity. So I'm not trying to completely get away from the kielbasa and the working class mentality and everything like that, but you update it.
Right. Just trying to build on it.
Yeah, you build on it, you reboot it, and you moved on from there. Speaking of moving on. A couple different things. We'll talk a little more about the Steeler game, moving into another subject. But first off, I want to talk to my producer extraordinaire. Last week, obviously, Aaron McCollum, great interview. Brian, thank you very much also for filling in for Alex. But that's all you did. You filled in for Alex. But she was on vacation, took the cruise with the folks, had the parents.
With the whole fam.
With the whole family. Loaded up the family truckster and went down there. Anything special? Did you learn anything? Was it more of a romantic comedy or more a National Lampoon's comedy? I mean, what kind of thing did you have?
It was kind of like in the middle, I guess. No romance though. You
didn't get your groove back.
No. But there was some interesting stuff. I mean, just things that I did. I went helmet diving, which is pretty cool, and I wasn't claustrophobic.
What is helmet diving?
You put a helmet on your head and you go diving.
I thought that's what it was.
And there's fish around you.
Oh, okay.
And I went on a private catamaran. Beautiful stuff. Me and my sister learned something interesting. We usually make a lot of friends on the ship, and we hang out with them at night, like all through the week. Well, we didn't make any friends until Saturday, our last night. And we talked to the people, and they're like, yeah, we saw you like at the club and stuff, and we saw you multiple places on the ship. And we were like, well, why didn't you come talk to us, And they're like, well, you just seem very unapproachable. And I was like, I've never had anyone say that I was unapproachable before. And they're like, yeah, you just apparently were too pretty to be approached. But I told them, I was like, I tried everything I know. I tried everything in my power to look like a nice, fun person,
How do you what do you wear when you want to be not approached, and what do you wear and how do you look when you want to be approached?
I don't know, because everyone's always like, you should wear not revealing clothing if you don't want to be approached, you know what I mean? But also, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But
see, the thing about it is I get similar things that I am unapproachable.
Because you're too pretty.
That's what I think, and also my mom thinks. But everyone else is just no, the gigantic size. That would be the unapproachable. Now,
see this is the thing. I smile, especially on the cruise. Every single person that I go past, I smile and I say hi to and stuff. And I'm very nice to everyone that I go past. And also, I was a ton of fun. I competed in a Beyonce dance competition, which I would never do. I did karaoke. I judged a hairy chest competition. I also danced on the dance floor for a half an hour straight by myself. So I might have looked crazy, but I think I looked fun.
You just ran past a few things. Okay, number one, the Beyonce dance contest. Were you trying to dance like Beyonce or just dance to? Okay.
You had to dance to Single Ladies, which is my least favorite song ever in the whole world. But like no one was volunteering for the competition, so I decided that I would,
So you danced like, so did they have the video behind you? And
No, I wish they did, because then I could have danced like the video more.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking. Because like I've seen the video. I mean, the mental image of her in the
I
black.
haven't seen the video. The only reason I knew some of the dance was because of Jimmy Fallon.
Well, yeah, him and Timberlake did the. Yeah, those guys did that. But okay, and then adjudged a hairy chest competition.
Yeah, you would have done well.
Now let me ask you a question. What was the was it you were looking for, like most hair, most beautiful hair?
So there was like, it's a bunch of old guys, obviously, because no young guy has the balls to do that. And they had to dance. That was like the first round.
Okay.
Then they had to do a pickup line, and then they had to do their best Tarzan impression. And then the hairy chest was also factored into the whole score.
Okay, how did you judge that? Were you looking for most or just beauty?
Well, all of those things combined. Like you
Okay,
scored,
so it's more of
basically like scored all of them, and you're like, oh, okay, someone.
So it's more like a middle-aged guy's Miss America is what more or less. What
Exactly.
Now, let me ask you a question. What were some of the pickup lines?
Oh, they were really horrible. None of them were good. I think that these people, obviously these people don't use pickup lines very much. You know, they're not really trying to pick up people anymore. One was like, oh, did you just fall from heaven? Or are you hurt because you just fell from heaven? I don't know. They were all stupid.
Here's the deal about pickup lines. If you're good looking, anything works.
That's very true.
Yeah,
we've discussed this before.
Yeah, if you're Brad Pitt and you walk into a bar and you go up to a woman, you just sit there and go, "I have a penis. Would you like to see it?" She'd be like, "Yeah." But then if you are a weird person, then the most wonderful, which by the way I've proven, if you use that
if you use that line, anyone will sleep with you.
Well, yeah. One thing that was interesting. And I'd like to play a couple of his videos on the show. We'll pick there's this British guy who's like a dating expert. And he mostly, I think I've played him for you.
Yeah.
And he mostly talks, to women, but I think that what he says is universal for anybody. And one of the things that he said, you talk about being approached, is women always complain that I only meet jerks at the bar. And he sits there and he goes, you have to understand something, that most men are just like every other human being. They don't want to be embarrassed. So most men are just looking for the right time to come up to you and talk to you, which is true. And so if you are with other people, it can, make it there. If it looks like you're having fun in your own group, most nice guys are going to sit there and go, okay, she's having a nice time. And so that's why it always seems like jerks come up to you, is because the jerks don't care.
Right.
The jerks are just going to sit there and say, hey, I'm asking every woman in this bar how she's doing. And if one of them smiles, then that's the one I'm going home with. And so then all of you collectively go, wow, all men are jerks. And like, no, the nice guy who's sitting in the corner looking at you thinking that you're nice. And the other thing he said was like, if you interviewed every guy in the bar and you said, okay, do you find this woman attractive? Most guys would be like, yeah. Well, why didn't you come up to her? She seemed like she was, busy, whatever. But again, that comes to approachable. And so that comes back to like, what makes you more approachable? Because I can't make myself not 6'4", 280 pounds. I can't do that. But I do, like, have you ever noticed that I do smile a lot?
Right.
Like I do.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain things, like I really do come up to people and I try to, hey. Hi.
You'd scare me if you did that to me.
But I do it to you, and you maybe don't even notice that that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to alleviate any sort of pressure there. But we go from there. But again, very happy to have Alex back. Also very happy to have the Steelers back. They won last night. They crushed the Washington Redskins, who let's not talk crap. They sucked. They were a horrible team. They've been horrible forever. Their owner's an idiot, and Kirk Cousins is awful.
Wait, did you say let's not talk crap and then talk crap?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
But that's how cool people do it.
Oh.
See, that's
right.
That's why
I don't understand that.
That's why people don't approach you. It's because you don't.
Because I'm not cool.
Yeah, you're not cool. But here's the thing about Week 1 in the NFL, and I texted this to my brother. Here's a brief synopsis of Week 1 in the NFL. And even Alex, you're my audience of the person who is not interested in football at all. Here's your one sentence recap of Week 1 in the NFL. The teams that suck still suck. There you go.
Wow.
That's it. The Browns still suck. The Jets are still good enough to lose by one. The Rams were awful last night. Do you know how bad a football game has to be that I turn it off at halftime because I'm like, this is awful. I have to go to sleep. Like,
wow.
That's how bad last night was. Rams 49ers. It was that bad. The teams that suck still suck. The teams that are good are still good. It's still going to come down to Patriots Steelers at the end of the day. And the Broncos have a good defense. They're going to try it. Boom. That's it. That's your NFL recap for there. Boom. Now, again, I'm getting into football. I love football. And I was very pumped this weekend. I was able to get a ticket to Pitt Penn State.
Ooh.
So and if you don't know, for the first time in 16 years, the two rival schools played each other at Heinz Field. I was able to go. My sister, Bridget, who is the lawyer downtown, who is a proud Pitt graduate, was drinking from about 6:45 on. So she had friends coming in from out of town. Her old roommate came in and her sister, and so they were drinking for most of the day. So
at night or in the morning?
In the morning.
Okay.
Yeah. So good. That's the quality with the sister. So we went to a bar, started there, drank a few beers, was getting into the spirit of everything like that. Now, one thing I will tell you. Oh yeah, I got a picture of me absolutely downing a beer. It's unbelievable. I do drink. I do drink. Here's the thing. Like, I don't drink much because you always see me at the bar at open mics. That's like my workplace. That's one thing about comedians, and this, okay, getting off on a side. Most comedians, I don't mind if comedians drink because there are certain comedians that actually, they know their own, like, okay, I get a drink and a half in me, I'm funny.
Right.
Like, there are certain comedians that sit there and say, okay, I got to drink 2 before the show and that's it or whatever. Most comedians haven't figured that out yet. So they get to about 4 or 5 drinks, they go up on stage, they make absolutely no sense, and then they wonder why they completely bombed. The reason why is because you were bombed. That's why. You've seen enough sets to see them when people are just absolutely drunk off their ass.
Right.
And they just can't do it. But so I went to the game. Now, a couple things about the game. First and foremost, the game should be played every year. The game was an event. It was by far, before this game, the best college football game I'd ever been to is I had found a way to get Michigan, Ohio State tickets when they were 1-2 in the country. And the way I got those tickets was because my brother John, who at the time was, okay, I'll tell that story real quick. All right. So my brother John was a senior in high school at Fox Chapel. He was a middle linebacker and he was getting recruited mostly by like FCS low 1A schools, not schools at the Ohio State's level. But sometimes it's good to have rich friends. So my brother John had a close friend at Fox Chapel whose dad had a lot of money, who was a booster at Ohio State. So he was always talking to Jim Tressel, and anytime Jim Tressel would come around, he'd meet with his dad because obviously Jim Tressel loves money like all people do. And in talking to him, he says, you know what? You should be recruiting my buddy John. And, like Jim Tressel is, he's like, oh, well, I'll call his high school coach and have him send film, kind of a brush off. That's what any coach you ever go up to and say, hey, you should be recruiting XYZ. They'd be like, oh, send me some film. And so somehow, some way, Jim Tressel did get a hold of my brother's film and didn't think he was good enough to get recruited, but he thought he's maybe good enough to maybe walk on or whatever like that. And so Jim Tressel got my brother's email. And so they started corresponding together, the head coach at Ohio State and my brother John. And one of the things that he had said was, hey, if you ever want tickets, shoot me a line. And so this week that he got that message was Ohio State, Michigan. Ohio State was number 1. Michigan was number 2. It was the biggest game in the last 15 years in college football. So my brother's in my apartment and sits there and goes, hey, Jim Tressel, the head coach at Ohio State, said, if any time I want tickets, I just email him.
No big deal.
No big deal. Like in passing.
Yeah.
And I go to my John, I go, well, they're playing Ohio State, Michigan. And he goes, yeah. He goes, email him now. And he sits there and goes, oh, okay. And so he emails and says, could I get 3 tickets? 5 minutes later, Jim Tressel emails him back. He goes, they'll be at will call for you.
What?
And so this is one of the funniest things. I called up my brother, Tim, and I said, hey, Tim, where do you want to watch the Ohio State Michigan game? And he sits there and goes, I don't know, go to your house, maybe order some pies, something like that. He goes, and I go, how about the 50-yard line? And that's one of my cool lines because I'm a cool guy.
Yeah.
And so we went out to Ohio State. Now, here's the thing. Because we were with the recruits, we were treated like 5-star kid. Like at the time, Rob Gronkowski, who's now with the New England Patriots, was one of the other recruits. There was a couple other guys that eventually got drafted into the NFL that were with me and my brother John. So we were on the field. We were next to Derek Jeter, who was a Michigan guy because he grew up in Michigan, but Yankee shortstop. So we're near there. We were on the field during like warm-ups, all that other kind of good stuff. And then we did sit down, and we were legitimately 2 rows behind the Ohio State bench at the 50-yard line because we were the recruits.
Wow.
And so, yeah, we watched number 1 versus number 2 for free at there. At the Horseshoe at Ohio State. And the cool thing about it was then after the game, we didn't really care who won because we weren't a fan of either one of them. We were just there because, like, hey, it's free and it's Ohio State, Michigan. So it was funny because they won the game, meaning they were going to the national championship game. Everybody's storming the field. And so literally we just walk on the field and we're walking through the students all like, we won. And me and my brother and Tim were just like, yeah, great. Okay. And eventually we run into Jim Tressel. And I literally just shake his hand. I go, hey, thanks for the tickets. He goes, oh, no problem. And we just walk right through the middle of the field, right out of the stadium and drive away. And we're like, oh, that was fun. Now, the reason why
you are so cool.
Yeah. Now, the reason why I tell you that story, this weekend's game was better.
Well,
this weekend's game was better. Now, I wasn't on the field or anything like that, but this weekend's game was better. And it also was cool because 2 players for Pitt who actually made big plays, I actually coached in high school. Adam Bisnawati, who's the captain, offensive tackle, who they're talking about getting drafted this year. I coached him at Fox Chapel. Was me and my brother were his offensive line coaches for 3 years. And Quentin Reginis, who was the middle linebacker who made the big sack to hold Penn State out in the 4th quarter. I coached him his freshman year when he was a junior varsity. And there's a story about Quentin Reginis too. And this actually has to do with Baldwin High School, your alma mater. So we're playing a JV game against Baldwin at Baldwin. So there you go. So we're playing a JV game at Baldwin. I'm expecting a phone call, dude. I'm expecting a pizza coming in. So we're playing a JV game at Baldwin. Have you ever been to a JV football game? Nobody cares. There's 15 people in the stands. It's all parents. Being a JV cheerleader has to be kind of whatever, because it's like you're cheering. You're just essentially in front of your mom looking at you, cheering. But we're at Baldwin High School. Now, one of the things we did do is we recorded the game so later we could tell the kids, oh, this is what you did right, this is what you did wrong. And so at the end of one of the halves, we threw a Hail Mary pass, and Quentin, who's now one of the middle linebackers at Pitt, who was a wide receiver for us, to tell you what kind of athlete he was, jumped up, caught the ball, and looked like he had 2 feet in, and then fell out of bounds. And he's putting hands up like touchdown, and the refs, who were JV refs, they didn't really care. They're like, no, not now, didn't get in. And that was the end of the half. And so we're like, oh, whatever. And so it's halftime of a JV game. There's no like game planning or anything like that. It's like, get your Gatorade, talk to your parents. We'll be back in about 8 minutes. So I sat there and went, I wonder if he was in. So I went to the guy who was like one of the dads recording the game. I go, can I see the video? And so we had like the little camcorder that had the little review, and I review it. And clearly on the video, Quentin had both feet in bounds. So me being the jerk I am, I walk up to the refs. And the refs are, they're Yinzer JV refs at a Baldwin game. They got Chew in. They're talking about what game they're going to watch at, noon. They're just making a couple bucks on a Saturday morning. I press the play. I show it to him. I go, it looks like our receiver was in bounds. And literally, he's like sitting there drinking water. He's like, yeah, no shit. And I go, well, it was the last play of the game. Of the half, you could just say touchdown and give us the points. He goes, who cares? Like, literally, just like, who cares? And I'm just like, but the kid, we're trying here. We drove all the way here. I had to go through the Liberty tubes. We had to, all this kind of stuff. At least give us the damn touchdown. And so, but we ended up losing that game by 2 points.
So they didn't give you the touchdown?
No, they didn't care. Again,
if it doesn't matter either way, why not just give it to you?
Because then they would have had to hear crap from the Baldwin coaches, and then and then all the people. It's just it's better to just it's the reason why most of the things in this world are stupid, because the fact of the matter is that, people just kind of just let things slide and they're like, whatever, and they just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, one of the things that came in through the news is over the weekend, D'Angelo Williams obviously had a great game yesterday for the Steelers. Actually was on my fantasy team, helped me crush my new brother-in-law in fantasy football in week 1, because I had him on my fantasy team, because I don't know if you know this, I know a lot about football. But he was at a restaurant down in the D.C. area, and apparently he got terrible service. It took him an hour and a half to get the food. They initially got the food wrong and all that other kind of good stuff. So we're going to be talking about restaurants, because we're also got on the phone right now Dave, Terry.
Hello, how you doing, Mike?
Hey, how are you guys? And is Terry there?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Hey, Terry. Hey, just so you guys know, it's the Mike Sasson Show. We've got Dave Carmine and Terry Down from Between the Eats. It's on YouTube. It's on television here in Pittsburgh and in Providence. It's a cooking show between these two. And thank you very much for coming on the show, Dave, Terry. Quick question, first and foremost. Here's what I've picked up about the show. Dave, you're a classically trained chef, and at a restaurant up in Sewickley. And Terry, you just trained yourself, and just you're a mom who just learned to cook and learned to love cooking just in your own home. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, well, I am definitely a professional chef. I have moved on from the restaurant in Sewickley, and I'm consulting chef right now, and doing some work with a local restaurant on the north side, because the show's doing so great.
That's awesome. And one thing I love is the consulting. That's the gig you got. That's the gig I got to get. I got to consult, because then all you just do is just sit there and be like, I consult you do this, and then they just do it. If they do it, they do it. If they don't, they don't. That's a sweet gig.
Yeah, it's in Pittsburgh, it's not the easiest one to get in this industry, but it is fun when you get it. And I ran into a great owner, Nick Mastros, over in Northside at the Allegheny Sandwich Shop, and he's just really excited about finding ways to be a little come on with what's going on in the culinary scene right now, and I'm having a lot of fun over there.
Well, we were talking about it earlier, because I'm being a stand-up comic, and us at the River's Edge being all about local music, and me being a local artist here, is we're getting national attention here in Western Pennsylvania, especially Pittsburgh, with our culinary scene. Actually, Zagat's rated Pittsburgh as the #1 food town in America last year. So a lot of exciting things happening in the food industry and the restaurant scene here in Pittsburgh. But you guys put together a show, and you've been on for a couple years. You're obviously online and also on television here in Pittsburgh and in Providence. But I guess get more like it's an origin story. What did you not like about current cooking shows that you felt that you could bring to the market that would be interesting for people to watch?
Jerry?
Yes, it was David's idea. David said, I want to do a cooking show. I want you to be my co-host. It was very timely because, like you said, the food scene in Pittsburgh has just been blowing up, and I'm actually hosting something in Pittsburgh. We're calling it Beyond the Menu, and it's going through November, and we're bringing in national food writers and food influencers from across the country to talk about what we're doing right about Pittsburgh food, what we need to look out for, how other people are doing it. So it's really cool. It's happening down at Smallman Galley in the Strip. But we just saw that hole where there's not really food video content coming out of Pittsburgh. So we did a live launch in Market Square. I was cooking live at the time at Pittsburgh Public Market on Sundays, and David wanted to launch this, so we got together. We brought on Real Mill Productions. Market Square was awesome, and within 2 weeks, the broadcasting company told us they wanted us to be on television. So we ended up taking our 7 to 10 minute online web segments and turning it into a half-hour show.
Now, one of the things that is interesting about the because we were talking about earlier is the fact that most people, if they're not aware of it, is, they assume Pittsburgh more of a meat and potatoes type of town. But, there's definitely, I mean, there's still obviously the great steakhouses and everything like that. But there's a lot of, new and unique places to eat in Pittsburgh. What do you believe is driving that right now in Western Pennsylvania?
That's a tough one to answer, to be completely honest with you, but I'm very glad to see it. And it's a culture of folks that grew up Pittsburgh used to be a very suburban kind of city. It was the suburbs kind of drove the city more than the city itself, and for a lot of decades. And what I've seen in the last few years is the city itself has really tried to say, hey, no, you know what, we're important. We need to have important things going on here. And the culture and the mindset of all of us citizens of the Pittsburgh region have really opened up to the concept of going to a chef-driven restaurant more than going to a chain restaurant. And once you start exposing yourself to new ideas and new flavors, you tend to really start enjoying what that has to offer. And I think that it's just a matter of time that a city the size of Pittsburgh really finds that kind of a culture. I mean, we've always had a great cultural district in Pittsburgh with theater and things like that, and it was just a matter of time before food found its way into that scene.
The funny thing about it is you just said something that I'd never heard, but it's a great term, a chef-driven restaurant as opposed to a chain, because I think people in Western Pennsylvania, from an arts perspective, one of the biggest problems we have is from a comedian standpoint, is that someone in town will spend $50 to $100 to see a national touring person, but they won't spend $10 to go see a local person that, and then that local person is forced to move to New York or LA. And then you wonder, oh, why aren't there any good, comedians? Why aren't there any good bands in Pittsburgh? And it has to be the same thing in terms of the food scene, in the sense that if we don't support a chef-driven restaurant, then that person, for economic reasons, then has to go to a New York or an LA or a Chicago where they do support that scene. But it's good to hear that there are people that are willing to support more of a local and a unique, because I think a lot of people in this town for a lot of years, because of the fact that it was more of a working class mentality of, okay, I don't want to risk having a bad meal, so I'll go to the restaurant that I know, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to go to the chef-driven, the unique place that the guy's going to try something, and maybe it'll be awesome, and maybe it'll be something that wasn't really in, but I want to experiment and try something new every day. So it's good to hear that at least in the culinary scene, people seem to be willing to take a little bit more risk that way.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to happen with everything else if it isn't already, with the comedy, with art, with we had a chef the other day. We were talking to Jamoka Borg. She's the new executive chef at Spoon, and she came from Puerto Rico and was trained at the Art Institute in Pittsburgh and decided to stay. And when the question was posed, why did you stay in Pittsburgh? It's because the opera was extremely affordable, and it was an affordable place for her to live, and she loves the opera. So we are having chefs finding themselves living in Pittsburgh because it is inexpensive to live and things like that. But the millennials that are flocking here for tech and through robotics and the government and things like this are wanting these restaurants. They're wanting local good comedians and art. So I think we'll see more and more of it.
Absolutely. It's a great thing for Western Pennsylvania. Now, again, I mentioned you're on television here in Pittsburgh, and obviously, this is internet radio. We have listeners from all over the country and everything like that. So where can people find your show? I mean, I mentioned Pittsburgh. It's on in Providence, also, a website or anything like that, YouTube. Where else can they find the show?
Yeah, and we actually, a few weeks ago, about a month now, we started being broadcast in Seattle as well.
Awesome.
So if you live in the Seattle area, you can find us on television. If you are not in those three markets, as you just mentioned, you can go to our YouTube channel, Between the Eats. find all our videos there. And we have a wonderful new website we're excited about. We just launched a couple weeks ago. It's betweentheeatstv.com. And that's another place that people all around the country can find our content at. And we're excited because the possibility of new television markets are there for us in the next few months, and we're hoping that pans out.
Awesome, man. Now, I got to bring up this one thing. We were about to have this discussion here on the air, and I'll bring you guys in being culinary experts. Running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, D'Angelo Williams was at a restaurant out in the D.C. area, claimed that the service was absolutely horrible, took him an hour and a half to get the food, and then when they did get the food, it was wrong. It was a terrible meal. So on a $125 bill, he essentially left a no tip. He left a 75-cent tip. Now, from your guys' perspective in the food industry, do you believe that it is ever justified to leave no tip?
That's a very touchy answer for me. But I will say that as an industry professional, it is our goal to provide perfect service from beginning to end for customers and guests. And, we are human. It doesn't always happen. Wait staff work for very little money. They pretty much survive off the tips. And at the other end of that, I can completely understand that if you do not receive the service that you feel you deserve by going to an establishment, that you would be tempted to not do that. I can't speak for D'Angelo Williams because I don't know him, but I do know that he is a public personality. So I would just think for myself, if I was in that situation, that I would want to protect my image. But he by no means has to live by that code. So that's a touchy situation. I understand all the things that a lot of folks don't see going on that can add to a poor service for guests, and it's unfortunate, and it's not always the wait staff's fault. And so, there's that question is easily asked simply, but there's a lot of layers that probably happened that day. And so I guess what it boils down to is it's an individual's right to tip as they see fit, and that's all I can really say for that.
Now, Terry, you're not necessarily. You're obviously a cooking professional, but have you ever experienced service to where you've lowered your tip, or have you always said, you know what, I've got to make sure that the server, even if it's not, it might not be her fault, all those kind of things. Have you ever adjusted your tip accordingly?
Yeah, I was an Eaton Park server. Yes, for many years in high school. So I know what it takes, and I think that a lot of things do happen that's not the server's fault. In Pittsburgh, sometimes I do restaurant reviews and things like that, and I always say if I don't have something nice to say, I don't say anything at all. So I'll say, Mr. Williams probably should have thought about that because it was definitely going to get out because people know who he is. So I don't think it's ever a good idea because it's probably not that person's fault.
I hear you. Well, thank you again for calling into the show, and again, give the people where they can find the show.
Yes, well, in Pittsburgh, you can watch us on Thursday nights at 7 on Cozy TV, which is 463. In Providence, we're on Sunday mornings, right before Phantom Gourmet at 9:30. And then on Saturdays, we're on in Seattle, and that's on KFSV, and we're on at 3:30 in the afternoon. Perfect cooking show time.
Absolutely. And guys, and obviously the YouTube channel and the website will give again. And now one thing that I love is I did watch a lot of the YouTube clips, and one thing that you guys, you're making the things look too easy. You're making a guy like me think that he could actually cook. So that's the one problem you guys are having.
That's the whole goal, is to show folks that you really can cook and you should cook, and that's the goal of the show, is to say it's not as scary as you might think it is. Absolutely.
Hey, Dave, Terry, thank you very much for calling in. And again, support the show and keep supporting local guys. I'm talking to the people listening. Support the show and support local restaurants. But thank you very much, Dave and Terry.
Thanks so much.
All right. Again, that's Between the Eats. Always supporting local stuff. That's what we're here about. We're here to support local stuff. Now that was a typical, in my opinion, restaurant professional answer. Now, you've been a server as well.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever stiffed you on a tip?
Not that I can remember, like really badly.
No one's ever given you, like, because according to this was like a $125 bill and he gave like a 75-cent tip.
Yeah, I never really had bills that were that high either. But there's not one instance where I like specifically remember someone tipping me that horribly.
See, I'm with them in a sense. I have a tough time blaming the server.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten bad service before. I've gotten food that's cold, everything like that, and I've sent stuff back and everything like that, but I've never held the server specifically accountable. Now, I will say that I have, when I feel that I've gotten great service, I have gone and given more, but I usually give 10 to 15%, even if it's horrible, 20% if I think it's pretty decent.
Oh, see, I'm 20% always, and if it's better, then I tip more than that.
See, I'm 20% if it was like, okay, you did a good job. 15% if I was like, if you got 15% with me, that's me just going, okay.
I always tip a lot. I'm like, here, just have my money.
The funny thing,
I don't need it.
I was thinking back on I've learned to tip more as an adult because as I can remember, I can never remember my parents being great tippers, and we would go to restaurants with 8 kids.
Right.
And I have to believe that after a while, we went to the same 3 restaurants. They had to be probably spitting in our food.
Yeah.
Because the fact that they're seeing a family of 8 with 2 parents, we're all big, so we're all ordering a ton of stuff. We're downing soda and water, eventually there was an old Haas's that was in Hampton. And
I miss Haas's.
They're now out in the center of the state. We now make the closest one is in Somerset, and so we make trips to Somerset sometimes just to go to the Haas's out there because that's how much we liked it. But there was one in Hampton on Route 8, and it got to a point that they were so used to seeing me and my brothers come in like twice a week, they would have pitchers of soda. Like they'd bring pitchers to the table because they knew that we would be consuming so much soda. So that's how. But that to me, that's great service. That's what I want. You remember me. You know that I consume a ton of soda. Hey,
see,
bring
I
the thing
just
there.
like they said, like the servers and stuff are working on nothing. Like I know when I was a server, I think I made $2.75 maybe plus tips, and no one came to our restaurant, so I would be lucky to make like $5 a night to pay for my parking, but. I don't know. So that's why I personally tip more because I'm like, I know you're not making any money and I know I'm maybe making more money than you. Even if I'm not, just have my money anyways.
Just have my money. That's bringing up Penn State. I'll admit. So what happened was I went to the meet with my sister, and initially I just got one free ticket. But I was going to be near people that I had not known. And so my sister goes, hey, do you actually want to sit next to your brother Tim? And I go, oh, of course I would. And so he goes, well, I have this extra ticket that's next that are 2 together that are near it. You can sit with Tim. So I'm like, cool. So now I have this extra ticket. So now I'm just trying to just get rid of this ticket. So I'm walking down the street. Now keep in mind, the face value of the ticket was $95. And this guy comes up and he sits there and he goes, anybody got any extra tickets? Anybody got any extra tickets? And I sit there and I just pull it out and I go, here. And the guy goes, how much do you want from it? I go, here. Just go.
Yeah.
Just get out of here. And everyone around me was sitting there going, oh, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? You could. I'm like, first off, I'm not going to haggle with the guy.
Right.
I don't want to be in that. And so I'm just like, and I kind of got the ticket for free.
Right.
And so I was just like, here, just, enjoy life, be free. And if you want to sell it, great. That's your deal. I just want to enjoy the game and just kind of move on. But I was thinking of the worst service that I'd ever gotten. It wasn't actually in a restaurant. It was in a convenience store. It was in a convenience store a well-known convenience store. and I'd gone to this place a lot. And just so you know what type of convenience store it was the kind that makes sandwiches. So I had gone in there and I had and gone and done all this kind of stuff every day. And so it was open 24 hours. So after I would do a show or a mic or anything like that, I would typically at like 1 a.m. get my hoagie, get a couple, soda, bag of chips, and get out of there. So I was there literally like practically 5 to 6 days a week. So one time after I had been working out, I had gotten some drinks and stuff like that, and I was waiting in line. Now, it was the middle of the day, like on a Friday. Place was packed, and definitely they were understaffed. They had one person behind the register, one person cleaning out the coffee, and one person making the sandwiches. And so I'm sitting there, and this line was at least 15 people deep. Now, they had the old lady at the lottery machine, and the old lady at the lottery machine sits there and starts like going, I need to get my scratch-off ticket. So the guy who's sitting there at the register comes off the register and starts to work on the lottery machine. So when he does that, I'm second in line. So I look at him and I go, I'm looking at the woman who's cleaning out the coffee. And I say, because I've been in retail before, and any retail outlet knows the number one thing you need to do is take people's money. Get people out of the store. I mean, that's, if someone's willing to buy something for you, that's the most important thing, not cleaning out the coffee. And so I sat there and I looked at the guy. I go, think you should put her on a register? And he sits there and goes, no, she's busy. And I'm like, okay, well, that's strike one. And so he's at the place for 5 minutes. Again, there's 15 people waiting in line, holding items, all this kind of stuff at this convenience store. And eventually this one guy, this old guy who was in front of me, was so ticked. All he wanted to do was buy a carton of milk. Eventually he sat there and goes, this is BS, puts the carton of milk down on the table and walks out. So now I'm first in line. About 5 minutes later, the guy comes walking in. I start putting my things down. He scans the milk. I go, excuse me, sir, the milk is not mine. And he sits there and goes, well, whose is it? And I go, it was a guy who walked out of here because he was sick of waiting. And he looks at me and he goes, you don't have to be shitty about it. And I go, excuse me? And he goes, you don't have to be shitty about it. I go, did you just use vulgarity with me? I've been waiting here for 15 minutes patiently. He goes, and he just goes, just stop being an asshole. And so I just go, okay, fine. And I put all of the stuff down and I walk out of the store. Now, I had never done this in my life, but this is how pissed I was. I called customer service, the line, and I call them, and it was a Friday at about 5 o'clock. I described the problem. They say, please describe your problem. 5 minutes later, someone from corporate from that place calls me up and gets the story. By 5:30, the district manager calls up. Now, this is a little game I sometimes play. Whenever I talk to people that are district managers or anything like that, I pretend like I have similar whatever. So I told him that I had been in retail for 10 years and at the district manager level. So now he starts talking to me sits there and goes, yeah, our Q3 numbers aren't what they need to be, and we're trying to get more recidivist business, and that store in general, we're having a manager problem, and blah, blah, blah. He's telling me essentially his job. And so I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but you understand my point. He goes, oh yeah, you're and because of that, I got a $50 gift card out of it. Now, that was 2 years ago. I have not yet walked into that store since. I drive past that store to another store of the same brand and give them my business and has still not walked into that place. And so that's one of the reasons why, you sit there and say, oh, it's not someone's fault, everything like that. Always remember, if you work a retail outlet, if you work any of these places, every time you have an opportunity to service someone, that might be the one, if you screw up, you lose that person forever. And that's why it's so hard. People talk about working at a McDonald's, working at a Wendy's, or working at a Gecko or Sheetz or anything. That's why when you're a manager of those places, you've got a person there who, just like you said, is making no money, who's trying to do customer service, and you got to make sure that person is giving at least some semblance of customer service, or it's not going to be worth anything to them. But, personally, I'd say not adjusting the tip in general, but going from there. But we are going to go from there, and we're going to talk about, I was trying to think of the top 5 today. And the thing about the top 5 today is initially it was going to be the top 5 things that I think I can cook. But then I was thinking about it is I really can't cook anything that requires any skill.
No.
Like I can cook things that like, you know, if you can work, I could work in a cafeteria. Like I can cook things like I can make spaghetti because I can brown meat, just brown meat, put the seasoning, throw the ragu in there, boil some water, throw a little salt in the pasta.
We know how to make spaghetti.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I know
Mike.
how to. Thank you. Well, you look.
Everyone does.
But you look shocked. You look shocked that I even knew how to do that.
Very proud.
You're not proud. You're making that I'm unapproachable.
Now I know how to make spaghetti.
I bet you $20 you weren't totally sure about it.
No, not at all.
But you know what you are sure of? That this is the top 5. And I want the head bobbing, damn it.
If you play the song, I will totally do that.
I pressed the button.
Has to get to the good part, though. That part.
That part. That's the part that makes you happy. It's the part that makes me happy. And the part that makes me happy, this is the top 5. So it's the things that I most likely order. Like if I ever go to a restaurant and I sit there and I go through and I'm really only looking for a couple things. I mean, sometimes I do kind of, venture off like, ooh, that looks decent or something like that. But most of the time I'm looking for one of these 5 things. Number 5 thing is like chicken spinach pizza. There used to be like a place called Dingbats. You remember Dingbats?
No.
Okay, there was one in the Waterworks Mall and then eventually one up at the Mills. And they always had like this mini like 6-inch pizza that had like grilled chicken on it and everything like that. And I literally would drive 15, 20 minutes out of my way just to have this pizza. This is how much I like this pizza. My parents every Saturday night would go out, married couple night out in the town and leave their 8 kids to destroy their house. And I would always ask them, I go, hey, if you're going to go to Dingbats, could you get me a chicken spinach pizza? And my mom would like maybe 1 out of 4 times remember. But those times when she did remember was awesome. Like she'd bring me the box and be like, here, I got you the chicken spinach pizza. So that would be like a good thing. So that's one of the things that I always would order when I was getting there. Number 4 is any spicy chicken sandwich. I'm a huge fan. Anytime you have anything with a spicy chicken, and it could be at Sheetz. The number 1 is Wendy's. The Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich is pretty much what I consume at Wendy's. So that's the thing. So anything you sit there and say spicy chicken sandwich. Number 3 is just subs. I love subs. I would say most of my hoagies are probably about 80% of the calories that I consume are through subs, through hoagies. Like, I mean, sometimes if I want a little light, like I remember when I had the debate with you, pizza versus subs, and I was on team subs. I would, because you can go light, you can go to turkey. You can go heavy, you can go like a meatball. You can go steak hoagie, even though I don't like it as much anymore because everyone calls it a Philly cheesesteak, and I hate Philly, so I don't want to give them the satisfaction of.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the level of hatred I have. So I would say number 3 would be subs. Number 2, most of the time when I go to a restaurant, I'm ordering either a clear broth soup or chili. Like as a pre thing, not and I try to avoid the cream based, just for caloric reasons. But if anybody's got any clear broth, like any wedding soup, I'm big about. Like beef barley, I'm big on. Why are you laughing?
I don't know. It's just such a stupid like separation to make. Like, oh, I only eat clear broth soups.
I didn't claim that I'm intelligent. I'm just saying that like there's a little part of me, because of how hard I work in the gym, that I'm like, okay, I'll make a few allowances. Like on Sunday night, I went to Brewster's and I got an ice cream cone. That's like a allowance because I'm like, you know what? I was on the elliptical. I was doing 40 minutes on the treadmill. I burned, 600 calories.
But you stick to clear broth soups and
yes.
chili.
Yes, and chili.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because also chili helps with pooping. which I'm a
Right.
huge fan of pooping.
Yes.
We've discussed this prior.
Number one.
Number one is fajitas.
Oh,
I love fajitas.
okay.
What's your opinion on fajitas? Here's my love about fajitas. It's like I'm making them myself. And I'm not, and tacos, I like tacos, but if I need to make the taco, you know
No.
what I mean?
Nope.
What-
I love tacos anytime. Doesn't matter who makes them.
I like tacos, but I like fajitas better because I get to make them, which is well fajitas
I don't always
are.
like to make things. I want things made for me, and I want things easy to eat.
Fajitas are super easy to eat.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just saying that I like that. Sometimes I don't. If I'm gonna be served at a restaurant, I want to be served at a restaurant. I don't want to have to make my own food.
Here's my problem. I always get like tacos. Like I went to Smoke, and I went to.
Are you gonna say something bad about smoked
No.
tacos right now?
No,
okay,
I'm gonna-
good.
okay.
Because they're amazing.
I like the tacos. My only problem was, as a large human being, like I got two.
Oh, see, I only got one. Get their mac and cheese next time. Have you ever had that?
Yes,
Oh,
but like
it's so
I mean,
good.
that's why I feel more full with fajitas because then like they give you like 6 of them, so it's like eating 6 tacos.
Oh, see, I don't have this problem because I had one
'Cause you're
taco
a
and a
normal-
little bit of mac and cheese.
You're
and
a
I was
normal sized human being.
way
That's why
full.
you don't have this problem. But for the larger people in the world, it's an issue. So that's the thing. Like if I order tacos, I know I'm only getting like typically 2 or 3. The only other place is the Beer Hive where we have a mic. They have fish tacos, and I'm a big fan. I like fish tacos, and they give us 4. That's good. And also they fry the fish, which makes it a little bit fuller.
Yeah.
But like if I like sometimes like at Smoke, it was just 2 tacos, and they were great tacos, but there was just 2 of them. Now, what are you looking for typically when you're looking on a menu?
Well, tacos is my number one.
Okay.
Then probably burgers, I want to say. Burgers, then steak, then salad.
Here's the thing about burgers that I'm burgers seem to be now like the cool thing, like, ooh, we're doing a gourmet burger. And every time I've had a gourmet burger, I've always just been like, that's good, but it's not so good that I'll travel out of my way to come and get it. You know what I'm saying?
Nope, I don't agree with that.
Like there was this one like gourmet burger place that I went to recently, just opened up, and I'm like, okay, let me try this. And their big thing was, oh, the burgers are amazing and like the shakes are good. I thought the shakes were really, really, really good, and the burger was, quality. But you have to understand, if you're gonna make a burger place, it has to be so good that I'm not gonna go to Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, go to Sheetz, go to Get-Go, have their burger. It has to be so much better than those burgers that I'll travel past them. And 90% of those type of burgers, I've been like, okay, it's a burger, it's good, I get it, but it's not good enough for me to spend 6 times as much as I would at a fast food place. You know?
See, I think that I'm really not picky with my food, and I tend to enjoy like everything that I eat to a certain extent. You want to know how to enjoy your food more?
Stop sweating so much?
No, you dance when you eat it. I always dance when I eat food, typically. Unless I'm talking.
You also zone out. That's the other thing that you do.
When I eat food?
Yeah, you because I try to
I
talk
want
to
to
you.
focus on eating food and
Absolutely.
dance.
Now, speaking of that,
If you go like this when you eat your food, you like it a lot more. Doesn't
Here's-
matter what it is.
okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get a video, and we're gonna go out to eat, and we're both gonna dance while we eat. It'll be like a 30-second like GIF that we'll put that little thing like this, and we'll be eating it like that, and we'll just have video of the people looking around us looking weird. Now, speaking of
No one looks at me when I dance when I eat. It's typical.
people are
And then you get to burn off what you're eating
People-
as you're eating it.
people are totally looking at you, Alex. Speaking of that, new segment today.
Boom.
Alex, you are a deep and philosophically intelligent human being. That's why you're on this show. And you write down your philosophies in your phone, typically while inebriated. So we're going to share a couple of those today.
I have
And
one good question.
You have one good question. Okay, so
Yes.
every week we're going to have Alex, what are we going to call it? Bar thoughts?
Bar thoughts and experiences with Alex.
Well, now we need a theme song.
Just like that.
We need a theme
It's
song.
going to be real soothing.
Okay, well now you have to come
Bar thoughts and experiences with Alex.
Okay, well now we need to. Now you're making. Now this isn't just a thing we're gonna fly by night. That's not what this show is. You need now to think about.
legit.
Yeah, it's legit.
I'll sing it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll have like a dancing video.
Okay. Yeah, we got to figure something out. Okay.
Anyways.
So this is the trial run. If it sucks, we'll never do it again. We'll never speak of it, and we'll probably edit this out.
Okay, so
All right.
we're at Scarp's me and my roommate Liam.
Okay.
What was that, like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And this was a question that I thought of. Don't know where it came from. No idea.
All right.
But
Go.
so if you were a cannibal,
Okay.
and you ate people, because that's what cannibals do, what kind of people would you eat? Would you eat pretty people, or would you eat like fat people or ugly people? What would you do? And then I'll tell you my answer.
Interesting you asked that, because it's amazing what you remember from people. There was a buddy of mine in high school that one time brought up, because I'm a thicker, bigger guy, who brought up one time that like he had read from cannibals that, similar to like cows and marbling, that if you actually wanted to get good human flesh, you would eat bigger human beings. So probably if, like, let's say I was part of, like, first off, don't eat people.
We don't believe in eating people.
Also, it's bad for you. I actually read that if you do eat it, you get like a disease and you go crazy in your mind and die. So don't even think about doing it.
We do not believe in cannibalism.
We do not believe in cannibalism. But for some reason, he told me that like bigger people with, you know, a little bit more like muscle and body fat and everything
How
like
do
that.
you know this?
How does he know this?
Yeah.
I guess he read it. It's amazing.
Let's hope so.
He consumes human beings, but yeah, he claimed that like bigger people. So I guess if I was like it was like that whole movie Alive, where like the plane crashed and they ate the old people, I would first go with the fat person.
Okay.
Because that apparently has like the best marbled meat. So I'd go with the big person. What about you?
I drunkenly and meanly said that I would eat all of the ugly fat people so that there are more pretty people in the world.
So you went more with the Darwin theory.
But after I think of that, I would think like I would kind of go for the opposite, because the pretty people, because I feel like I wouldn't want to eat like really ugly people. I don't know.
See, I don't think that it'd be the facial structure. It'd be the level of meat, because you don't really care if it's a pretty cow.
Depends on how
or not.
hungry I am.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't really care if it's a pretty
That's
cow
true.
or a pretty good. You want the meat. You're there for the meat.
Also, if I was a cannibal, I would really want someone else to prepare my food.
Of course. But I think part of being the
But
cannibal
I don't know how I
is-
get a partner in crime to do that.
Be surprised. Put something on Craigslist. But no, I mean, I would say if you're at the point of cannibalism, part of the, you know, I mean, I bet you if we talk to Dave and Terry, they'd sit there and say that, part of the joys of, eating is making your own food.
Oh, no.
So, but you'd want to be waited on hand and foot.
Yeah.
That's your thing. Now,
Here is your human face, Alex.
there you go. See, the face wouldn't be what I'd go for.
Oh, well,
Like
maybe
you
thighs.
think about like thighs, but
yeah.
my back would be a good one. And then, so that'd be what you'd go with. Now, speaking of people that should go away, I saw this video. It's from a preacher. And part of the philosophy of this program is that I believe the future of this country has to be, we have to become a nation that only focuses on things that are important, and everything else we have to say we don't give a fuck. That's the key. That's the absolute key. And by the way, I'm going to be more animated now on, because Alex's cousins just watched this without...
My little cousins watch it without audio because they just like to look at me, and they say that I'm famous now.
And what did they say about the giant hairy man?
Nothing about you.
Good. I'm just glad that they were at least not
They weren't scared, yeah.
They weren't scared. Good. But one person I'm scared by is this guy. He's a televangelist, and apparently he has a bit of an ass asphyxiation. So if we can listen to this for a little bit.
God's going to put a cancer
Love him.
in the butthole. God's going to put a cancer in the butthole of every sodomite. Every sodomite's butthole will get cancer in the butthole. It'll burn and burn and burn. They won't be able to sit down because of the burning in their butthole. He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole. God's going to have a flame coming out of your butthole. You're going to have a flame coming out of your butthole. If you thought that AIDS was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole. Your butthole will be flaming and you will not be able to sit down until you have a flame coming out of your butthole.
my God.
And there'll be people walking around all over America with flames coming out of their butthole.
That'd be amazing!
Up the rear. Everyone who has a penis injected in his butthole, when that penis comes out, the flame will start burning. Because ain't nobody gonna stick no penis in that flame. That flame will be an eternal flame coming out of the butthole of every sodomite. Flame coming out of the butthole, flame coming out of your butt. That man pulls that penis out of you, a flame is going to come out, and nobody will ever stick a penis in your butthole again because it will be on fire. You ain't seen nothing till you see the flame coming out of T.D. Jake's butt. Lightning bug got a flame coming out of his butt, and all flames shooting out of their behinds. You're going to see the power of God. Flame of fire is going to come out their butthole.
Oh my God. You know what would be a really good drinking game is to drink every time he said butthole.
You know what would be a good drinking game is if the world actually happened there and there'd just be flames shooting out of people's buttholes.
Then you know.
Would you imagine just walking down neighborhoods, just people just flames shooting out? Like, I love the fact that he sits there and goes, they'll be walking down the street and they'll got flames coming out of their buttholes. And I'm just like, what an amazing world where you're just walking and you're
They're
just
all
walking.
lightning bugs.
Now, I love it's an eternal flame. Like,
Does that propel you forward?
It might. Like how the Batmobile goes forward. That'd be... But so I had to play that. I saw that I was on vacation. I was like, ooh, Alex will find that mildly humorous. But okay.
My cousin, who has my little cousins that watch the show, she said that they call you Sasquatch because that's what you said on the first show that you look like. So now they call you Sasquatch every time they watch it.
Not the first person to come up with that name. I just hope that they didn't hear the whole...
The flames coming out of your butthole.
The flames coming out of your butthole.
Oh my God.
The flames. We got to find out who that guy is. And I want him on the show.
Yeah.
I want to have him a weekly segment to where he can sit there and be like, Alex and Michael, we can't because flames are coming out of your butthole. The river's edge will be a buttholeless, flameless world.
Imagine what prison would look like.
Just the
It would all burn down, yeah.
Imagine that was their escape plan. Like, all right, we gotta go sodomite. Well, but no, I don't want to do that. No, trust me, you'll do it to me, I'll do it to you, and we'll burn our way out of there. How could you incarcerate people then? If there were just everyone just had flaming buttholes, you would have to literally build like underwater prisons. What would happen? What happens if someone were to snorkel like you did or helmet dive? Would the flames stay? I mean, with the power of God, they could probably do that. You know what? I bet you that might be the whole source of the global warming, is the flaming buttholes.
Right.
Right. Now, I'm going to leave you with something positive.
That wasn't?
That wasn't. Okay, Neil deGrasse Tyson, world-famous astrophysicist. I sometimes in my set, and Alex can attest to this because she has seen a decent amount of my sets, one thing I always say in passing, and people don't realize that I actually mean this, is that all the Earth is a big blue ball spinning through an infinite universe, and I want to rename it the SS Love, and I want to be your captain. And I truly mean that, because if you really look at cosmically where we are in the universe, the fact that people want to stick things up people's buttholes is not that big a deal, as opposed to screaming into a video camera about flaming buttholes. And Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of talks about how you look at the universe, because you can either look at astrophysicists and think that it makes you feel really small, or actually that it propels you and makes you feel really big. So here's this guy talking.
Which for some people is enlightening, and for other people it's terrifying. For those who are terrified by it, they're here on Earth and they have a certain self-identity, and then they learn that Earth is tiny and we're in this void of interplanetary space, and then there's a star we call the sun, and that's kind of average, and there's 100 billion other stars in a galaxy, and our galaxy, the Milky Way, is one of 50 or 100 billion other stars, other galaxies in the universe, and with every step, every window that modern astrophysics has opened, to our mind, the person who wants to feel like they're the center of everything ends up shrinking. And for some people, they might even find it depressing. I assert that if you were depressed after learning and being exposed to the cosmic perspective, you started your day with an unjustifiably large ego. You thought more highly of yourself than, in fact, the circumstances deserved. So here's what you do. You say, I have no ego at all. Let's start that way. I have no ego. No cause to puff myself up. Now let's learn about the cosmic perspective.